All right. Moving on. Looking at the components. Here's the third component, the services and support component. An example, integrated marketing communication requires some kind of strategy where the marketer is targeting a particular group in some particular way while serving the objective of the establishment of the organization. A good example of this would be how where we have the discussion of the Cleveland Indians giving up Chief Wahoo as the logo. Okay, that's a branding, an important branding component of the Cleveland Indians. I was teaching a class a number of years ago at another school, and one of the HR persons from the Indians came and spoke to my class, sport management class, and I asked her about that, and she said, now keep in mind, this is 25 years ago, she said, we will never lose Chief Wahoo. Well, that's an interesting comment to make, because I don't know that, I'm sure that we'll never lose that particular logo in one way or the other, but there may come a time when the Indians do not use that logo whatsoever. And we've reached that point where they're not using it on the hats. At the time of that class, they had put out a hat with a script I on it. And we're using that along with Chief Wahoo. Now they're just using the red C. And we'll see how long it takes to get rid of it totally. If you've ever been to an Indians home game, there's always a silent demonstration by Native Americans. They just set up kind of a place and they demonstrate silently, peacefully that this is not right. And you're obviously aware of the other discussions throughout. For instance, the Redskins. Well, now they are the Washington Football Club. It's pretty tough to find fault with that in terms of offending anybody. You know, granted, it's not a catchphrase, but that's what they've come up with. Now, every one of these represents some type of high school or college or pro logo. And you can identify, I'm sure, all of them here. You know, you look at Chief Illini for Illinois and you think, that is about as classy as it comes. Are they going to make them get rid of that? I don't know. One thing I've wondered about is the Aztecs. You know who the Aztecs are? San Diego State University. Now, they are not Native Americans unless we want to count all of the Western Hemisphere as Americans, but they're out of Mexico. So how do they get to be the Aztecs? I don't know. These are questions that we can't really answer. Let me throw something else out there. I'm not sure. I think Mount Vernon has been the Cougars since its inception. I'm pretty sure. But there's a lot of Christian colleges that have been around for a long time that started out as, anybody know what half the Christian colleges mascot was, or the nickname was? The Crusaders. And there's still a lot of them that are. Anybody tell me what the problem with that is? Do you have any ideas? I mean, why are so many schools, Christian schools, changing from Crusader? Point Loma changed from Crusader to Sea Lions. Northwest Nazarene changed from Crusader to Nighthawks. And if I knew the others, I could go on and on, but there's several more. Any idea? No? Well, what do you think of as Crusader? What historical event does that bring up? Crusades. And now that may not have any meaning for us here, but over in Europe, believe it or not, and I wish the other Josh was here, because he might be able to shed some light on that, maybe not. But over in Europe, the idea of the Crusades is still kind of a stinging bit of history. What did the Crusaders do? They burned and robbed and pillaged and raped all the way through Europe in the name of Christ. So, do you want to be the Crusaders? That's why a lot of these schools have changed. Now, we already know that there's a lot of, even before all this discussion in America of Native Americans, some schools took the high road immediately. Miami of Ohio used to be Redskin, now they're the Red Hawk. Eastern Michigan used to be the Hurons. I thought that was kind of cool. Now they're the Eagles. One of the most talked about was North Dakota State, the Fighting Sioux. And they were threatened with, in fact, the NCAA told everybody, you have to get rid of these logos on the floors and the walls, or else you won't be able to host postseason. Well, that was a blow to North Dakota State. And part of the problem with that was that the person who gave millions to the school was against it. I think his name was Engelstein. And well, they eventually did. I'm not sure if I don't think they changed the actual name. They may have. I haven't kept up with that. But then the question then comes: what about the Seminoles? They're still the same. Why is that? Anybody know? I don't know for sure, but what I hear is that they have an agreement, if you will, with the Seminole Nation. And I'm guessing what that means is Florida State is, coming up with some benefits for the Seminole Nation. Now, I don't know how else. I don't think the Seminole Nation would do it just out of the goodness of their heart. We'll see what happens with the rest of them, or the Atlanta Braves and the Chop. Maybe they'll start with the Chop, and then they'll go from there. I don't know. Branding. Let's talk a little bit more about branding. Within the Ohio High School Athletic Association, these are some of the logos you're going to see. Like, this is a general logo for the OHSAA. Here's a ball company that will put the OHSAA on it. And I don't know if they have adopted Rawlings, I'm not sure. These are hats that they come out with. These are officials' hats. And just about every piece of clothing that the OHSAA sells. For example, you may have been at the state track meet, a wrestling tournament, or a basketball tournament, and they had shirts for sale, and you bought one because you were there. And if you look at it closely, you'll probably see some type of logo that looks kind of like this. So branding. What is it that a team says through its branding? Is it identification? Marketing, pricing? Is it separation from others? Oh, Max Preps, that's really not a part of the OHSAA, although they're a partner with it. And if you've not been on this site, it's kind of interesting. You may want to check it out. Okay, back again to the strategic sport communication model. The two most important concepts that we glean from this chapter are, number one, sport communication is based on a structure of 3 components. And number two, sport communication does not occur in a vacuum. It is a process. Those are the two most important components in this, or most important bits of information in this chapter. All right? Now, we're going to do something here in just a few minutes. But I wanted to give you further illustration of what we talk about with branding. Okay, I brought a bunch of caps here. Now, obviously, B and E on the top. I don't know that this is, we probably wouldn't count this as the branding that Mount Vernon uses. There are others that more identify, but this is an easy way. Here's, who are the golden flashes? Anybody know? In State. Here it is. The golden flashes. And this is the Centennial Edition. I got one of these because that's where I went to grad school. If you see this, here's a pair of Robo Grips, Craftsman. Okay, if you're in tools, you see this, and this is one of the ways of their branding. This is kind of sweat stains, kind of ugly, but Titleist. You know, how many golfers wear these things, whether they use Titleist or not? It's kind of a cool looking brand. Believe it or not, even Nazarene Theological Seminary has their own brand. My wife went to seminary, so she picked this up for me. Nazarene Theological Seminary. Or, everybody's favorite, Menards. Here's an interesting one. For about, I don't know, almost 15 years, Olivet was the host for the Chicago Bears training site in summer. And this is the official logo that they had for training camp. And they pulled out about a year ago. They go to their own facility in Chicago now. But that was, and they have a little RC Cola on there. That was part of one of the sponsors. Okay, we've all seen the Ohio State logo. We see that everywhere. This one is, it's Nike. You know, has a little swish on it, but it's the dry fit. You know, and you probably have clothing that says dry fit on it, and that's a marketing tool all in itself. It's a brand. Here is an old NCAA cap, and I got this at the headquarters in Indianapolis. But my point is, the little circle with the NCAA that is offset, that is their brand. And if you go online, you're going to see that. And even if you see it from a distance but can't read it, you know what it is. Here's an official's hat from the OHSAA. I'm a registered official in track and field, and it just so happens that they mostly wear these black caps with that particular logo on it. You see it's kind of generic. It doesn't say track and field, but they use that color. Here's a logo from, it has no name on it, but if you know school colors and you know nicknames or mascots, it's Olivet Tigers. They just have the tiger on it. That's their brand. Since I was in Chicago, living in an hour from Chicago, I had to either be a Cubs or a Sox fan. So here's my Sox hat. It was cheaper than a Cubs hat, although I got to see both of them play. Here's an old one, Pepsi. Now, you would recognize the red, white, and blue logo anywhere. That's their brand. But this particular hat shows a flavor that hasn't been out for years called Pepsi Twist. So that was kind of a brand for them for a while. And this final one, maybe you can tell me, who is this? It looks like a ship's captain and he's got a baseball bat. Anybody know what team that is? It's a minor league team, give you a hint. It's a ship's captain. Captain, baseball. Anybody ever go to minor league games? The Lake Erie Captains up in East Lake. Okay, I forget who they are an affiliate of. By the way, just a comment about minor league baseball. You know, there are like 7 or 8 levels of minor league, AAA being the highest. And minor league games sometimes can be more fun than going to a major league game simply because it's family friendly. If you go to the ballpark at East Lake and watch the Captains play, out in left or right field they've got like a hot tub. You can go out there and watch, or you can bring a group in. They got a picnic area, and I know the Sox do that also. But they want to bring families in. I went to a non-affiliated game in Joliet, Illinois once. I forget what their name is now, but they're an independent group. And we came out of the game and they're handing everybody packages of hamburger buns. They just happened to be like next door to a bakery, and that was the giveaway for that day. So, family friendly, minor leagues. And they're cheaper and so forth. Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to discuss with 2 or 3 others here, just like we've done in the past. First of all, can you define the MVNU brand in a sentence or 2? What is the brand for Mount Vernon Nazarene University? Is it more than athletics? You know, does the university itself have a brand? And then how do we use it? And then finally, I want you to contrast the MVNU brand with either Ohio State or Kenyon or Indiana Wesleyan or Ohio Christian College. Or let's throw in Columbus State also. So define the MVNU brand. How do we use it? And then contrast it. I don't care if it's better or not better. Contrast it with the brand of one of those schools up there. And then I want to hear something from all the groups. Okay? So you may need to move down a chair with the girl. Somebody move up. Somebody needs to wake Devin up and get him involved here. He's just resting his eyes. All right. Okay, get with 2 or 3 people. Talk about this, and we'll come back in a few minutes and see what you come up with. Define the Mount Vernon brand. How do we use it? Contrast it with one of these other schools. And remember, brand doesn't necessarily mean just a logo. Brand can also be a concept. And I'm going to end the video there.